Joining us now, Coordinator for Strategic Communications at the National Security Council, Admiral John Kirby. It's really good to have you. Let me ask you about these hostages that the IDF says it accidentally killed. Have you been briefed on what they were doing, how they were not, were they just walking around in northern Gaza? Were they in civilian clothing? Do we know anything more about the other hostages and whether they may have been abandoned by Hamas militants?
Well, Katie, first of all, our hearts and prayers go out to the families here, families that are going to be getting here, if they haven't already, get the worst news possible about their loved ones being held hostage by Hamas. It's a terrible tragedy. It's a tragedy that Prime Minister Netanyahu has spoken to. I know the Israeli Defense Forces have said they don't have full details yet. We do not either have full details on exactly how this happened and what occurred. I'm sure that our Israeli counterparts will do the forensics here to try to figure out what went wrong. But it's just terrible, terrible news. And as for the other hostages, I know of no connection between today's tragic events and impacts on the specific safety and security of any other hostages being held. Obviously, we want them all released. The best safety for them is to get them out now, and Hamas could do that if they would just do the right thing and release them all, which obviously they haven't proven willing to do.
Can you tell Americans who turn on their televisions or open up their social media or read a newspaper and they see these horrific images out of Gaza, the destruction, now the weather and the rain, the number of bodies, the mothers screaming for their children, just the horrible death toll and devastation that Gazans are currently living in, and they wonder to themselves, is the United States supporting this sort of pain and suffering? What can you tell them that the United States is saying to Israel, and what sort of influence we have with Israel to make sure that they're not indiscriminately, which the president said, bombing Gaza?
I agree. These images are difficult to take in, to look at, to try to fathom the level of suffering that the people of Gaza are experiencing right now, suffering that was caused by Hamas's decision to break a ceasefire and attack Israel. And what I would tell those Americans is that, first of all, we're doing everything we can to alleviate that suffering by increasing in the flow of humanitarian assistance. At our urging now, the Israelis will open up the Kerem Shalom crossing into Gaza, so a second now crossing will be opened up for delivery of trucks, food, water, medicine, and fuel, importantly, and the United States is leading that effort. The other thing, and this gets to your question more specifically, is, and Jake Sullivan, our national security advisor, just had these conversations again with our Israeli counterparts, urging them to, again, be more careful, more deliberate, more cautious in the way they're going after these Hamas targets. Legitimate targets though they may be, there's an added burden on Israel because of the way Hamas hides behind the human population in Gaza. There's an added burden. It makes it tougher on the Israelis to go after those leaders without causing civilian harm. And I would tell you, as we've said before, that the Israelis are receptive to that message. They're listening. They understand it. They know they have this special responsibility, and they are making an effort to try to be more careful. We see that in the number of forces that they're applying in North Gaza, which was smaller than normal. We see that in a reduced reliance on airstrikes. We see that in the dropping of leaflets telling people where safe areas can go and not go, and opening up humanitarian corridors for the free flow and safety of people out of harm's way. Can more be done? Absolutely, more can be done, and that's one of the messages that Jake delivered when he was in Israel, and we're going to keep working with him.
The U.S. has such influence because we give so much money to Israel. We give so much military aid to Israel. We are their strongest ally. I find it hard to believe that if a mother or a father was warned that they're in danger, that a bomb might be coming toward them, that they wouldn't leave. I find that hard to believe, and yet we still see so many civilians being killed. Israel says they're warning them, but there's a disconnect there. So I wonder, does the U.S. say to Benjamin Netanyahu, hey, listen, we understand you have to get Hamas, we agree with that, but there is a limit to what we can stomach?
Well, I won't get into our private conversations with Israeli leaders. I can tell you, though, unequivocally, privately and publicly, we are making it clear to our Israeli counterparts that we will continue to support their effort to go after Hamas and the terrorists that caused the October 7th attacks. That's legitimate. No country should have to live with that threat next door the way Israel has had to live with it. At the same time, we are urging them privately and publicly to do this in a way that reduces harm to civilians and to work harder to do that, to work harder to reduce those casualties. It is a specifically tough environment for them to operate in. I mean, it's not like that you can perfectly separate the terrorists from the civilian population, since the terrorists they find value in hiding behind civilians. So it makes it much more difficult for the Israelis in this military environment than it would in other conventional military environments.
I think it's right to say that when Israel says, hey, listen, we don't have a negotiating partner for peace here, I think that's correct. I don't think they have a negotiating partner with Hamas, and obviously the Palestinian Authority is not in a position to negotiate because they've been weakened so. And in the past, they just haven't taken it the distance with Yasser Arafat. But I wonder, do the Palestinians have a negotiating partner in Benjamin Netanyahu as he's aligned with these far-right ministers and needs them for his survival as prime minister? Does the U.S. believe that a peace can be achieved, that a negotiated settlement can be achieved where Palestinians get rights as long as Benjamin Netanyahu is in charge?
We do believe that certainly peace can be found here. And we actually believe that this war could end today if Hamas would do the right thing, lay down their arms, turn over the terrorists that attacked Israel on the 7th of October and release all the hostages. Now, clearly, they have no interest in doing that. They're the ones that broke the ceasefire that was in place on the 6th of October. They're the ones that decided to break that ceasefire. But we believe that certainly a peace can be had here. And that is one of the reasons why Jake was over there, not only to urge our Israeli counterparts to be more careful and deliberate, but also in meeting with Mahmoud Abbas to talk about how important the Palestinian Authority can be here in helping us get to a peaceful solution and in post-conflict governance in Gaza, because it can't be Hamas. It can't be a terrorist group in charge of Gaza. And we think a revamped and revitalized Palestinian Authority can be really important in there. And so that was another part of Jake's discussion in the West Bank in Ramallah today. So we do believe there's a way forward here, but it's going to require, Katie, leadership on all sides. Leadership by Prime Minister Netanyahu and his cabinet, who we know have certain very strong views, but also leadership by Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority, leadership in the region. Not just with our Israeli counterparts, but with Arab nations around that part of the world. And in the United States, they will all continue to find a true friend and supporter in trying to get to a two-state solution, a mutual peace and security for the Palestinian people in the West Bank and Gaza, as well as for our Israeli allies.